Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, Brewer fans, welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast. The 2025 regular season is in the bag, and the Brewers have finished with a franchise record 97 victories. And they've got the number one seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So that's the good news. Joining me today, of course, is Vince Travato on this Brew Crew Review podcast. And how's it going, Vince?
It's going great, Craig. I mean, we're at one of the most exciting times of the year. I always loved the baseball postseason. I've loved it ever since I was a kid, and that includes many, many years where the Brewers were not. And so it's even double, triple, however many more times exciting when the Brewers are in the postseason as well. So yeah, this is great.
Well, of course, the MLB season, 162 games, is the longest season from all the major sports, and it it's just something rewarding about being able to be in the postseason tournament, so to speak. And of course, the Brewers have had a tradition along the franchise's, was it 50, 55, 56 years into the franchise's history,
Yep.
and they've not had a very illustrious
56 years.
record of success in the postseason. But I think history is about to change, hopefully, going forward. So again, trying to stay optimistic. So before we go over in this episode, we'll have our playoff predictions here for each league, and then we'll do a quick rapid nine at the end of this podcast. And then, but before we get started, I guess we'll just come up with the latest news here. A couple of things, I guess, good news, bad news. Let's start with the good news. This is all injury related. We've got a couple of guys coming back from injury here on the last day of the season, which is really promising to see. Trevor McGill made it back and pitched a clean inning. DL Hall also came back and pitched a clean inning. There's also reports that Jose Quintana might be able to return to the Brewers for the NLDS, and hopefully, or if not that, hopefully at some point. But that's all positive news. Now the negative, of course, is that Brandon Woodruff just a week ago during a bullpen session has a moderate lat strain, and is very much questionable. The Brewers put him on actual IL, and he would be available to come off for the start of the NLDS, but whether or not he's going to be healthy is very much, not only for the NLDS, but for the playoffs at all, is very much in question. And yeah, I guess I'll let you say your thoughts on those good news, bad news, injury stuff. But I will say, from my perspective, it just seems like all the way going back to 1982, for those of us who are alive then, that it seems like the Brewers had like a major arm or some related arm issue or injury going into the playoffs. I mean, 82, of course, was Riley Fingers. We had, with this already happened to Woodruff a couple of years ago. We had Devin Williams punching a wall, and again, not all teams do go through injuries before the postseason. But I mean, again, this was pretty devastating news when I found out about it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and unfortunately, it could really play a factor in the Brewers' ability to move on here in the postseason. I mean, you're taking out a guy who, when he's on, has been one of the best pitchers in baseball in his career, and is a rock of stability. And you'll also see that his return from his previous injury coincided with the Brewers starting to really turn the corner here in the 2025 regular season as well. And I know Scotty's interns can probably pull up the record that the Brewers had after the Woodruff return, or when Woodruff was healthy, what the Brewers record was. But it was incredible ever since he came back against Miami in July, what the Brewers were able to put together. And, Craig, we talked about it many times on the podcast. In April and May, the Brewers were mostly kind of a 500-ish team. They were fun, but it wasn't like the juggernaut that we saw later on in the year. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So it's not just Brandon Woodruff, but I will say that his being healthy adds that piece of stability, not to mention having a talented top of the rotation arm, on the field. So I do think that that's going to be a major concern, unfortunately, for the Brewers here in the postseason. And as you alluded to, I am not old enough to remember 1982, but I do know that Raleigh Fingers being out, but, many who were old enough and who were there say that was one of the biggest reasons why the Brewers were not able to get over the finish line against the Cardinals in the World Series in 1982, when guys like Pete Ladd had to step up into that role, a role that they were not accustomed to throughout the season. So let's hope that it doesn't come to that this year. That the injury doesn't cost us. But I am quite worried about the Brewers losing Brandon Woodruff again at this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess more than anything, I feel bad for him personally. He obviously missed all of last year with injury, which I'm sure cost him a lot in the pocketbook with any type of contract extension. The Brewers did sign him back with an option for this year, which they of course did, and they picked up. And he came back after a very long layoff, like you mentioned this year. And I think that I was actually at the game he came back, and the Brewers did a really nice tribute up on the scoreboard for him, like how many days it had been since he last pitched, and they got a standing ovation as his return. And you can just there's something about Woodruff that really makes you think that he loves being a Milwaukee Brewer, and the Milwaukee Brewers fans love him. So I mean, this is just it's just one of those gut punch news. With that being said, I'd say a lot of other teams entering the postseason have had some of their own injuries. Obviously, the Phillies uh, losing Zach Wheeler for the entire season. You had the Cubs already losing Justin Steele, and now it looks like they're going to probably be without uh, their rookie pitcher Cade Horton for probably all the NLDS and not longer. And it's throughout baseball. So I mean, it happens. I think I saw today Lucas Giolito is going to miss the series, the NLDS for the Red Sox. So I mean, everyone else, it's like the next man up syndrome. I mean, they've already weathered all these teams have weathered a very long 162 game season. And again, I think the Brewers have had that next up mentality, and I feel that we still have a really strong position going into this postseason. Obviously, the strongest position we've ever put ourselves in with home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and of course the all important first round bye. So I mean, yeah, I think the one thing that I think to keep in mind for Brewer fans is the fact that trying to stay positive is the fact that the Brewers even, they kind of pittered out toward the finish line here after a great season with all the streaks and overachieving and all that stuff. However, even in the month of September, they did finish 12 and 12, 500. So they basically were not under 500 for any month of the season, which think shows how good of a team and how resilient this team is. And yeah, so I'm still fairly confident that the Brewers, can make this happen. I think that their strength of their up and down of their lineup without any real holes in it, and the strength of their bullpen is really, I think, something that can make them stand out this October.
Yeah, that's great. I definitely think that this is a pretty well balanced lineup when they're on. They're definitely on. It's been exciting to watch all season, obviously, and looking at the rotation, and we can get into this as we make our predictions here going forward on the show. I think that the Brewers do have enough depth that they built up to still be able to weather some of this, with the loss of Woodruff. I guess that the question becomes, is Quintana healthy? And we do have some question marks. So I think that that's, the biggest concern. But, one of the benefits or one of the joys of watching this year's Brewers team has been that they really have bought into the next man up mentality. And we've seen that again and again throughout the course of the year. So we've been dealing with injuries for quite some time throughout the season, going back to, spring training. So, if you remember our starting rotation going into opening day, it was devastated by injuries that occurred, during spring training. And guys who we expected to take on a huge role, like Nestor Cortez, pitched in 2 games as a Brewer, something like that. So you've seen that next man up mentality. So I think that Pat Murphy really does have these guys prepared mentally for dealing with the adversity that comes through injuries and that comes through, a long season. And certainly you're going to face challenges in the postseason. Every team does. It's just how you weather those challenges. And the Brewers have not done that well in the past few seasons. But I think that, Pat Murphy, if anybody's gotten them prepared to do so, it could be Pat Murphy.
Absolutely. And again, just to the point, I think Murph's philosophy on, win tonight has been their mantra. I think will really play well in the playoffs. They take every at bat, every game, they grind it out and they don't give up. They've had a lot of come from behind victories. And again, with the way that the team is built with awesome bullpen, awesome defense, lots of speed. I really think that the Brewers are built for success in October. And not only that, but like you might look at other teams in the league and why that they've made the postseason. A lot of times they have standout great players that are possible MVP candidates if you look across the league, or Cy Young candidates. And not that the Brewers don't have those, but the Brewers really collectively as a team instead of having one standout star, they just have guys contributing at all levels of the team. And it's very rare for me to have a Brewer team. I honestly, uh, with all apologies to Joey Ortiz, like there's not anyone in the lineup that I see that there is a weakness toward the team, and so I really feel like this is a very strong roster. I mean, if you look at the Brewers' top five players, and I know we've already discussed this, and we're gonna wait till the entire postseason's over to go over, of course, our annual Brew Crew Review postseason awards for the Brewers. But if you look at the possible even candidates for the best player on the Brewers this year, the MVP, so to speak, I mean, you've got Bryce Trang, you've got Christian Yelich with an unbelievable bounce back season. You've got William Contreras, who catches almost every day, has got it out through injury. You've got Jackson
Yep.
Chourio, who's having a pretty awesome sophomore campaign as well. Sal Friedlich's had a little bit of a breakout, even with a little bit of power. And I think the times that we've had him at the top of the lineup has really made this team go. Then again, you have so many rookie contributors, which is kind of unheard of for a team. So many rookie contributors. If you look at even our rookie of the year candidates this year, Caleb Durbin, Isaac Collins, you've got Jacob Mizrowski, who was an all-star, of course. Chad Patrick, who was like kind of an unsung hero of the beginning of the season rotation. In fact, he was the first Brewer pitcher, I think, to get a win. Logan Henderson, even though has not been there the whole year. The times that he's pitched, he's been phenomenal. So I mean, that's a lot of rookies that the Brewers have relied on to get them through the season.
Well,
So
yeah,
yeah,
and to get back to your MVP point, I mean, I would even add Quinn Priester or Freddie Peralta to that list of potential team MVP candidates. So, I mean, you've really had
And
contributions.
Andrew Vaughn, I didn't mention either. I
Well,
mean,
Andrew Vaughn too, but I think that realistically, you could probably hand that award to 5 or 6 different guys and not have too many people complain about it. I really believe that that's the kind of depth that this team has, and it's been it's been able to be seen like up and down the lineup and in the rotation as well. So it's a really diverse set of characters. One could make the argument for Abner Uribe, quite frankly, as well. And if it wasn't for his injury, probably Trevor McGill too. I mean, both of those guys have been locked down at the end of the bullpen for the most part throughout the entire year. Abner's posted a 1.67 ERA. It's been pretty incredible. That's in 75 games. So we're finally getting a chance to see what Abner can do while healthy over the course of a full season. He's just really taken some leaps, in my opinion. And even again, a guy like McGill, I think McGill is 4th in the league in saves at this point, and that was with missing 2.5 weeks with an injury. So it's a very impressive roster up and down. Where again, I think you can come up with a legit 5 to more guys who could in theory be the team's MVP.
yeah, I mean, there's little doubt. I mean, Abner Uribe, let's just single him out. He may be the most valuable bullpen arm of any team that's in the playoffs. I mean, if you look at what he did this year, 1.67 ERA. He filled in the last month while McGill was injured. Had 7 saves, but he also, in spite of even not even being a setup guy for the last month of the season, he led all of baseball with 37 holds. This guy's been an unbelievable rubber arm. He's been in there in lots of key situations, has done phenomenal, and he's an unbelievable weapon to have. Then you have a guy like Aaron Ashby, who has a left-handed pitcher on the bullpen that can cover multiple innings. For teams that have a lot of left-handers, I mean, he's like the anti-Loogie, where you just don't put him in there for a couple of batters. Like he can stay in there for a couple of innings, which is super valuable. He's had an unbelievable season himself with an ERA just over 2, and has been in there every time we needed him. And then now getting
When
Trevor
did he
McGill.
come back from his injury? I'm trying to remember. We could have the interns look it up, but do you remember when he came back from his injury? Because he was on the disabled list to start the season. I know that.
No, it was, yeah, a couple of weeks into the season. I don't remember the exact date, but
I I think
Sapphire
it was
could
even
probably look that
later
up.
than that. I think it was even later than that for whatever reason. But he still managed to appear in 43 games and win 5 of 5 games and pitched, close to 67 innings and posted a what was it 2.16 ERA. It's pretty incredible contribution from Aaron Ashby, and I think getting a better understanding of why the Brewers signed him to a longer term deal back when he was a rookie. And a lot of people I think were questioning that. The guy had a negative WAR for his first 2 seasons and posted ERAs, close to 4.5 or over 4.5 for his first 2 years. And all of a sudden you can see what the Brewers were seeing back in 2022 when they signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, he's been injured for the last couple of weeks. So don't forget, DL Hall has also had a very similar role where he can cover multiple innings as a left-handed pitcher. other teams don't have that luxury of having not only one but two guys like that. I mean, I really feel that with and I'm not even mentioning Jared Koenig, who was one among the league leaders in appearances. He was in there and he's pumping gas upper 90s himself from the left-handed side. I mean, we have lefties coming all over the place in the bullpen, and we have lights out righties too. I mean, it's hard for me to even fathom that how valuable that's going to be. And again, we're talking about these starters, but I mean, in some of these series, like the NLDS, our starters may not need to go more than 5 innings, or may not even be asked to. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see. But obviously, the loss of Woodruff is going to be felt. There's no doubt about it. Having Quintana back would be great, but even Chad Patrick, I think, can be trusted to go 4 or 5 innings in that, in a game three or something of a series. It has already been stated that Jacob Mizorowski has really struggled in the second half. Most likely will not be given a starting role in the postseason, which I don't necessarily 100% agree with. If we've seen him at times, I'm going to trust Murphy on this, but we've seen him at times just look phenomenal. As we know, in the beginning of the season, he made the All-Star team. He looked like a future top of the rotation starter, not just for this team, but for all of baseball, possibly. And then even a recent game early this month against the Pirates, he pitched like 7 innings with, I think, 9 strikeouts or something. And he looked like, this is the guy you want as your 1-1 as a playoff starter. But again, Murph has determined that he's maybe not ready. And because of, even though he's got such a high ceiling, sometimes in the playoffs, I think that you're scared to put in a guy who still has a low floor. And as he's currently part of his growth and development, I think Mizorowski could, things could go deep south, deep six or south on him very quickly, and that could torpedo a whole game or a series. And so I think it's because of that we'd rather trust a veteran arm or something like that, like Quintana, um, to cover a few innings rather than Mizorowski. However, I think Mizorowski could also be a phenomenal bullpen arm weapon too to use in short spurts. So hopefully he finds a role, and I feel he'll contribute to the postseason this season, but possibly not in the way that we were thinking around the All-Star break, I guess.
Are you saying that you agree with that? Because I know on our last podcast, you had been pretty adamant that you wanted Miz to start in the postseason.
Well, in light of the Woodruff injury, I did. Okay, knock on wood. If we get to a 7 game series, I feel that he should be afforded the opportunity to start, whether it be a game four or something of a series. Because as I don't know who would be even our game three, let alone game four starter right now.
I think Chad Patrick.
Yeah.
I think it would be Chad Patrick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, the way that the NLDS is laid out, where it's basically 5 games, potentially 5 games in like 8 days. There's a couple off days built in there. I think we can rely heavily on our bullpen more so. And but when we get to the 7 game series, if knock on wood, we get that far, the bullpen, I think you have to rely a little bit more on your starters going deeper, and not only that, but your rotation going at least 4 deep. And so someone will have to step up. And again, I'm really hoping Jose Quintana and his veteran experience is back from, and also being a lefty is back from injury, and because I think he could be a valuable key piece. But with Woodruff as our number two starter being out, that elevates Quinn Priester's have phenomenal season, obviously, for us to number two role, and he alone, starter wise, could be one of the keys of our entire postseason, Quinn Priester, and so
Yes,
hopefully we can keep the
absolutely.
magic going.
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in Quinn Priester. He's one of my favorite guys to watch pitch on a regular basis. He has just been incredible, and I know there was a lot of controversy, not from you or from this podcast, but when the Brewers acquired him, he really was kind of viewed skeptically. But I think a lot of Brewer fans, I'm thinking online, our interns were reporting that some of the social media vitriol against him was pretty bad, thinking that the Brewers gave up way too much in a package for an unproven starter. But I have just been so impressed by Quinn Priester and watching him pitch day in and day out, and he puts the team in a position to win literally every start that he makes, and it's just incredible to watch a guy like that perform. I think his consistency has just been amazing, and he has been one of the most consistent pitchers in baseball, in my opinion, in 2025. And it's a gift that the Brewers were on him as much as they have been over the past few years in terms of scouting and identifying a guy like that, making him a perfect fit for Milwaukee. And I have a ton of confidence in Quinn Priester in the postseason.
Yeah, and if you look at his numbers, he has an unbelievably high ground ball rate, and with our especially up the middle defense, which is basically, I'm gonna say it, platinum glove defense up the
Yeah,
middle.
literally, and that's Joey Ortiz's value right there too.
Yeah, I think it just has elevated him to unbelievable levels as we've seen so this year, and I think he can keep that going in the postseason. And now we're going to need him more now than ever. So it's exciting.
Yeah,
A couple of things before we get into our predictions. I know coming up here, the Murphy has been doing a few things lately that I'm a little bit I won't say surprised by, but he's kind of juggled the lineup a little bit here in September, where he's got Yelich leading
yeah,
off a lot. Personally, I liked Frelick leading off, and I'm totally fine with
yeah.
Harang now with his breakout being in the 3 hole like he's had him, and Churio staying in the number 2 hole. But I'm not a huge fan of Yelich being our leadoff hitter. I don't know if that'll continue in the postseason or not, but that's one thing that. And then the other thing is the amount of at bats that. Jake Bowers has been getting. I know he was hot for a little bit, but it really seems that the Brewers might be looking for him to have a heavy role in the postseason, pretty much against any right-hander. What are your thoughts on those things?
I think you're right. I think Jake Bowers is going to start at least once or twice in the postseason, and I think that Pat Murphy has a ton of trust in Jake Bowers. He's a veteran guy. He's shown he can be successful in the postseason. So I think you're going to see him start, and it could even be in the outfield, which could be really interesting. I know that the Brewers are going to have to make some very tough decisions around, first base and who gets carried on that roster. But to me, it's very clear that Pat Murphy really has a lot of faith in Jake Bauers. So I think not only does he make the team, I think that you're going to see him start at least a game or two, even in the NLDS. And I, my hope, at least, and I agree with you, I think that Sal Frelick should be our leadoff hitter. Day in and day out, he screams leadoff hitter to me. I have no idea why there was this experimentation going on the last week. I do think that it was just because the Brewers had already clinched. I'm not saying that we weren't trying to win, but I think that is the time, if you're Pat Murphy, that you're going to try some things. And maybe the thinking is that maybe give some protection to Joey Ortiz. He can see some more pitches. I don't really know, but for me at least, Joey Ortiz is a very valuable part of this team. He's a defender. I'm not counting on anything offensively from him. I'm not going to structure my lineup around him just to get him, quote unquote, better pitches to hit. So I'm going to go back to what worked during an 11-game winning streak and a 14-game winning streak and a very successful, Brewers offensive onslaught from June to, late August. And I'm going to have Sal Frelick as my leadoff hitter. I'm going to go back to that. What worked, I think that puts Christian back in a more natural position, at a different spot in the lineup as well. And I think it plays the strength of both Sal and Christian. And anything that you get offensively from Joey Ortiz, to me, is a bonus because of that, just incredible up the middle defense that you were talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I think that's what brought us here, our defense and our our up and down lineup of what I call bat battlers, guys that up opposing pitchers pitch counts and get to them in the middle innings. Um, and for Brewer fans and one key thing that the Brewers um, fans may be aware, the Brewers had a promotion with Chick-fil-A where if the Brewers, every time the Brewers scored in the fourth inning this year, the Brewer fans, if they opened their app after the game, would get a free chicken sandwich or chicken product or whatever after each thing. And they had this promotion running all season. I went back and counted because I took advantage of most of them that I remember to. But I went back and counted on a 162 game season. The Brewers scored in the fourth inning 60 times. And so it leads me to believe that the Brewers have really, that second time through the order against teams and that they've really upped the pitcher pitch count by that point, and that they really have a knack for getting to the starting pitcher around the fourth or fifth inning. And I think that really goes to show some success for how our roster is constructed to in that regard and the type of hitters that we have up and down the lineup. And it really, I
Greg, do you
love.
think that it's healthy to eat? Do you think that it's healthy to eat Chick-fil-A 60 plus times in the summer? It seems like a
Probably
lot.
not. So luckily I didn't take advantage of all that, but I'm sure some Brewer fans did. And
That's not a good idea.
and I mean it's like $5
I think the last time I went was when Scotty's Nuggets promotion. I feel like that was a while ago though.
I'm
When
pretty sure
remember when
Scott
knocked
at
out?
$5 or $6 a sandwich. I'm pretty sure Scott took advantage of at least 50 of those. So that's like 250
No,
$300 worth
Scott
of
doesn't
chicken
follow the
sandwich.
Brewers anymore. Yeah, Scott
Oh,
doesn't follow the team. But I know that back in what year was that? 2006. Scotty, how many Nuggets again for the record? It was pretty
how
impressive.
many,
It was like
what uniform number was Hank Aaron? 44?
44, yeah,
Yeah, I think
44.
that was the record, his personal record, 44 nuggets all in one sitting. Yep. Pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, amazing.
All right. Well,
Yep,
without
great,
further
great.
ado, like again, staying positive, staying pumped. The Brewers have put themselves in a position like no other year in their franchises. All the last time that they had finished with the best record in baseball was 1982. So I mean, if that doesn't get you fired up, I don't know what does. So with that being said, I'll segue into our playoff predictions. And let's start with American League. Obviously, Brewer
Yeah,
fans, I'm sure, are well versed on who's all in the wild card series here. But of course, we've got the
yep.
six-seeded the Detroit Tigers against the third division winning the Cleveland Guardians. And the winner of that series will play the Mariners. And then you also have the Boston Red Sox, fifth seeded against the fourth seeded wild card Yankees. And the winner of that series will go on to play the Blue Jays the next round. So, what are your predictions on how the AL will shake out?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the hot Cleveland Guardians. They were always my pick actually in that division, so that's kind of funny. But um, I'm gonna pick them over Detroit. I just obviously the Guardians have just been incredible in September. It's actually a team that reminds me a bit about the Brewers, and I think that they're well managed with Stephen Vogt, and I just like them a lot. So I'm gonna pick the Guardians over Detroit.
Okay. I will also, I guess we'll do this one time. Yeah, I'll also, even though they've got the probably most likely Cy Young Award winning on the Tigers and Skubal, which could give them fits. I think I'm going to go with the Guardians too. Again, the Tigers collapse is pretty well documented, and the Guardians rise, so I think that'll stay. Okay, moving on to the Red Sox Yankees.
I'm going to go the Yankees. They've been, to me, one of the best teams in baseball this year. Ton of talent. They seem to play well, usually in October. I'm going to go with the Yankees over the Red Sox.
Yeah, and the aforementioned Scooble, his competition for Al Cy Young, I think, ends with the Red Sox number one starter, and that's Crochet, Garrett Crochet. And so if the Yankees can survive him in the first game, yeah, I guess I'm going to pick the Yankees too. They seem like a better team than the Red
Yeah.
Sox. So that would lead us then back to let's go right through the American League. So then the next round,
Yep.
NLDS, you've got Guardians versus Mariners.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Guardians again. I know the Mariners are sort of the hot team for everybody to be picking this year. Obviously, Cal Raleigh is talking baseball. I do think he deserves to win the AL MVP over Judge, but I'm going to go Cleveland over Seattle. There's something about that Seattle team. I don't know. Josh Naylor's played great and above his head. I still think the Cleveland is the team to beat between those two.
Well, I mean, Cal Raleigh, a catcher with 60 homers, it's hard to even fathom that that was a thing that happened, but it did. I'm going to go with the
Incredible. Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the Mariners mostly because of their starting pitching. I feel is way stronger than the Guardians here, and I think that'll push them through. And I know their fans are
That's
excited
a
for that. So
that's a
okay,
sweet like '90s. That's a sweet like '90s retro matchup. Remember
oh
the
yeah,
mid '90s and those great Mariners teams, those great Cleveland teams. I mean, I know it was mostly Seattle and the Yankees, but even the Indians back then were
oh yeah,
obviously one of the great teams of the '90s, along with the Mariners and the Yankees.
absolutely, absolutely, yep. So that'll be a fun one, as will this one, the Yankees versus Blue Jays and the other NLDS.
Ooh, I know. Man, that's a tough one. I know you're going with Toronto. Uh, I will also go with Toronto. I think they are a really fun team. Yeah, I'll go with Toronto. So we'll have Toronto Cleveland matchup.
Toronto has a fun catcher too. Alejandro Kirk has been unbelievable. If you look at the guy, you're like, this guy's an athlete, and but no, I mean he's but that actually, with that being said, like I'm a little bit concerned with the Jays. They're relying on a lot of older pitchers or guys returning from injury, like Shane Bieber. Um, I don't know. The Yankees, they do have some nice top of the rotation pitching, and not only that, they have Judge and even Ben Rice had a breakout year. I'm actually gonna go with the Yankees in this one, to set up a Yankees Mariners on my and
Wow.
ALCS, and you've got oh no, you've got Guardians Blue Jays
Yeah, I
ALCS.
do, and I'm gonna stick with Cleveland all the way. So yeah,
Wow, okay.
Cleveland's my AL champ this year.
All right. Well, again, it's hard to believe. I mean, they lost the best closer in baseball because he bet or I guess, well, I shouldn't, allegedly is being on leave for betting on so anyway, I'll leave that alone. But I mean, their bullpen has stepped up and their pitching's been pretty phenomenal. So I could see that as a possibility, but that would be a pretty big shock if a couple of weeks ago, I think like you said at one point they were like 15 games behind the Tigers for the 15
15
and
and
a
a
half
half.
games. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable.
15 and
So
a
I
half.
guess
But you know what? I think it's so important to be hot, at this point of the season. It's like, I think back to years like 2007 when the Rockies were able to ride all the way to the World Series just because they got hot at the right time. So I think that matters quite a bit.
it feels like a couple months ago the Guardians must have had Jake Taylor come in for a motivational locker room speech or something because yeah,
He's probably still a senior advisor to the team if Dorn still owns it.
they're on the precipice of that. But okay, so so I'm actually going to pick the Mariners to defeat the Yankees to make it to their first ever World Series. Um,
Wow.
just because again, everyone likes rooting for the underdog. If you don't have anything invested in this, and you're watching playoff baseball, rooting for the underdog is always fun. And they're not necessarily an underdog; they're the number two seed, and I feel like they've really finished up strong here, which I think will bode well for them. So, all right,
Hmm.
going over the NL, and this is where our listeners have been glued to their computer screens or their phones or wherever they're listening to us, maybe their car radios or something. Whatever. So, I mean, the bottom line is here we go with the NL. The surprise entry of the Cincinnati Reds is a six seed snuck in and knocked out the Mets, and they'll be facing the third division winning third seeded Dodgers. And what is your thoughts on that series?
Yeah, and obviously these picks are not, and this goes, for the American League too. This isn't who I want to win; it's who I think will win. So let's just be clear about all that. But I think that the Dodgers will beat the Reds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't
Otani
want
was
them to. I don't want them to win. I want the Reds to win that series. But I think that the Dodgers will beat the Reds.
well, their starting pitching is getting healthy. Otani is like the Babe Ruth of our generation. Mookie Betts has been absolutely on fire. Is he
Well,
knocking?
they're defending world champions for a reason too. I mean,
Yeah.
they're a
With
great
that
team.
being said, I am picking them to get knocked off by the Cincinnati Reds, and it all starts with
Wow,
game one. Hunter Green.
wow,
He grew up in the Los Angeles area. I went to high school there. Was a number two overall pick in baseball out of Los Angeles area high school, and he will return to his hometown and defeat the LA Dodgers in game one, and they'll somehow find a way to win game two or three, and they will knock out the mighty Dodgers. That's my prediction. So, um,
wow.
moving on to the an all important series, I guess, of the Milwaukee Brewers, because we will get the winners. Number five seeded wild card Padres against the number four wild card Cubs.
I'm going to pick the Cubs. Unfortunately, I think that they're a better team than the Padres.
Yeah,
They're dealing with some injury issues at a very bad time for them. And so obviously I hate the Cubs more than I hate any other team in baseball. I also would have to look at it not just for my personal hate, but who would I rather play? And I think I'd rather play the Cubs, but either way, I do think that the Cubs are going to beat the Padres.
okay. Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting series. It goes three games, so we'll see what happens. Like I said, the Cubs are out without really two of their top pitchers with Steele and now Horton out. But with that being said, they do have the home field advantage. My heart's wanting the Padres to advance and Cubs to go home, but I mean, I've had a really bad success of picking my poison and trying to root for the Brewer, who I want the Brewers to play in the first round of every playoff season, and I've been wrong, obviously. So even though I've been hoping for the Padres, my gut now says the Brewers have an unbelievable record of playing well and hitting well against really good teams and good pitching. They've actually swept the Dodgers this year. They won the season series against the Phillies. They nearly split against the Cubs. I said bring the Cubs on. I think the Cubs will advance, and the Brewers. Well, we'll wait
Wait,
till what you think. Okay. So for this, the Cubs will move on. So moving back over to
well,
your.
wait. To be clear, are you saying that you want the Cubs to win as a Brewers fan, or you think that they will, or both?
I think the Cubs will win, but I had wanted the Padres to win, but again, I don't want to say that
Yeah.
out loud because I feel like I picked my poison, and the Padres will give us fits the next round. So anyway, that's yeah,
I don't know that I don't know if we actually impact the results on the field, but
luckily
maybe.
not. Well, I mean, then I won't mention that as soon as I texted you my laid out rotation for the entire postseason. That exact instant, I think Brandon Woodruff felt a twinge in his lat. in the bullpen.
Yeah.
As soon as I
I,
texted that to you, so let's
I
just
would
hope I
literally
don't
say
have
I
it.
know of no one that's as unlucky as you with baseball.
Let's hope that I
With
won't, and I
baseball
learned my
predictions.
lesson. All right. Well, anyway, so what's your prediction for the the NLDS Phillies Dodgers?
That I think the Phillies. I think that the Phillies are the stronger. Well, they're a very strong team. So yeah, I'm going to pick the Phillies. I think that this is the year they get past the Dodgers. I think that this is a great year to be a Phillies fan. They're a very very good team.
Yeah. I've got the Phillies against Reds. I think this is where their Cinderella story ends, and obviously the Phillies, I think, are the better team, like you mentioned, and they're getting Trey Turner back, unfortunately. So, Phillies in that one, so they'll make the NLCS most likely, and then over that brings us to the big one: Cubs versus Brewers, NLDS. With the Brewers the home field advantage. Who's your pick?
Well, Scott says that the Brewers will lose because he doesn't like the team anymore. Vikram says that the Brewers are guaranteed to win a world championship this year. So I guess I'll try to err on the side of optimism, and I'll say that the Brewers do defeat the Cubs. And it'll be awesome because all the Cubs fans up at Miller Park will have to watch their team lose. So I'll take Brewers over Cubs.
That is also my prediction. Brewers over Cubs. Um, and yeah, it'll be an awesome series from everyone's perspective, but I think the Brewers will emerge and move on to the NLCS against so we both have Brewers, Phillies, NLCS. Let's
Yeah, history would suggest that there is the possibility of losing in a crushing fashion in the first round. Where the Brewers, like the first round of our playoffs, that the Brewers will, find a very heartbreaking way
well,
to
we're done with
devastate
that.
all of us
Let's
with the
just move
Cubs on the
forward.
field
Yeah.
watching. Okay, so I'm hopeful that we're done with that too. So that's my only concern.
All right. Yeah. Um, what are your prediction? Phillies versus Brewers and LCS then?
Well, if we
Is it-
make it that far, we might as well just take the whole thing. We might as well just take the National League pennant at that point. So let me be clear though. The Phillies to me are the toughest team that the Brewers are going to have to come across in the playoffs this year. I think that they're a really, really good team. They were my preseason pick to win the National League pennant, unfortunately, if I'm being honest. And there's a pretty reasonable chance that they could be again, if that they still could be. So to me, they have just an incredible lineup. They've got a pretty deep pitching staff. I think that the loss of Wheeler is significant enough where that could really impact something, especially in an NLCS situation. Where you're going to miss a couple major starts that he would have made. So I do think that the Phillies are a very, very, very talented team, and I know the Brewers did play them well this year, and that's a really good thing. So I recognize that it's been kind of weird because last year I think that we got swept by the Phillies in Philadelphia, and it was 3 games decided by a run. And then this year the Brewers went to Philadelphia and swept them. So it's kind of this weird back and forth between these two teams. And there's even some playoff history, they're going back to 2008 between these two franchises. So I'm going to be an optimist. Now I'll pick the Brewers because of the Wheeler injury, but I will say that they scare me the most.
My prediction is the Brewers and the Brewer fans will finally get revenge for the flying Hawaiian Shane Victorino hitting a grand slam off our hero CC Sabathia back in 2008 playoffs, and the Brewers will avenge that and beat the Phillies and make it to their second World Series in franchise history. And
Wow,
I've got them
incredible.
playing the Mariners in the World Series, and you've got them playing the Guardians.
I mean, I don't I don't know. I don't want to be that guy picking against the Brewers winning a World Series like on a Brewers podcast. Um, it's going to take a lot. We're going to have to really. To me, the Woodruff injury is much more pivotal than I think we're thinking. Maybe. So I just want to temper my expectations. So I will have us winning the National League. I don't know if I can pick us beyond that.
Well, like I said, I think I think I may have picked them to win the World Series both the last couple of years on this podcast. So to reverse my luck, I will pick them to also make it to the World Series, but come up short against the Mariners. I will pick the Mariners to beat the Brewers in the World Series and hope for otherwise. But
Yeah, that's right.
It's
That's
been a
right.
very magical, awesome season. Been able to get out to the ballpark many times and see many games. The Brewers have won most of them, and there's been tons of magic involved. I've been in a lot of games. The Brewers have come from behind, they've battled back, they've won games, and this is just a fun team to root for. And we're a young, fun team that I think is going to be back. And we're going to be spoiled because the Brewer fans know that this is a young team with an awesome core in place, and if you just step back and think about it, we have not seen the best of Jackson Churio. We have not seen the best of Jacob Mizrowski, obviously. We have not seen the best of a lot of our other young hitters, including Sal Frelick, including, Terang's not quite in his prime yet. It's scary. Garrett Mitchell is like an afterthought. I mean, this is a guy who was a first round pick that
Right,
could be an
right,
impact. He had a
right.
huge home run in the second wild card game last year that really propelled us but to the next game. But I mean, the bottom line is I think the Brewers are going to be really good for a really young team. And I love mentioning the fact that the Brewers are finishing the season not only with the best record in all of baseball, but they also have the best ranked farm system. So combining those two
Yeah,
things, and the
yeah,
future is very bright for the Brewers. With that being said, you
yep.
never want to give up an opportunity. You never know when you're going to be back. And I think this is a golden opportunity for the Brewers to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs, and I hope that they can run with it as long as they can, all the way till we're staying on the streets of Milwaukee as something goes by on the
Heck
first week of
yeah.
November. So that'll be fun. Hopefully it's on your birthday, Vince.
I was
But
talking to my. I was gonna say. Wait. What was the last thing you just said, Craig?
I said, hopefully it lands on your birthday or something. But anyway, I know it's that
Yeah,
week.
I was just about to say that. My dad and I were just talking, and he was like, the parade could reasonably be on your birthday. He's calling for a World Series win this year. He thinks it's happening.
Yeah.
Um, so we were just talking about that, as well. And he's like, it'll be the third or the fourth because I think the last game is the first, so they wouldn't make it the second. But the World Series parade would be the third or the fourth, pretty much, and the fourth is the actual birthday. But he would be like, he was saying, um, it could, reasonably happen. So it's exciting when you see people start to make predictions. I asked him not to jinx us, so that's, hopefully nothing bad came out of that conversation. But we are actually literally talking about World Series parades in Milwaukee, which makes me very happy. And one thing I wanted to ask is, what would be okay or acceptable? What would not end the season? Like, it's going to be a gut punch if we are eliminated at any point, because it's just that's how it sucks to have the baseball season end. But what to you would be a reasonable measure of success? Like, is it a disappointment for the team to not win the NLCS? Is it a disappointment to lose in the World Series? Like, what is your measure
Like
of
you said,
success?
either the season will end on heartbreak or it's going to end in absolute, uh, exuberation. And there's really no in between, unfortunately. So to answer your question,
Right. Yeah.
I guess to answer your question is, okay. Twofold. The Brewers, I think, have had a phenomenal regular season, and that's awesome. I think they need to win at least one playoff season to not really be like,
Yeah.
just to get that monkey off their back, so to speak,
Yeah.
for
Yep.
recent history
Yep.
here. So I guess I'll go with that. But I mean, the bottom line is they have to seize this opportunity. I still remember Game 7 of the 2011 or no, the 2018 championship series, which we actually had at home at Miller Park. I
Against
ended
the
up
Dodgers.
winning. I went to Game 6. We won that game to force a Game 7 against the Dodgers, and we got behind
Yep.
against Julio Chacin. It was Chacin against Walker Buehler, and we got behind. And then I remember seeing that text from our colleague Chad Collins saying, "We need to come back. We never know when we'll be here again." And that really hit home with me. Like, you have to seize on the
Yep.
opportunities when you get them. And I feel like this is a golden opportunity for the Brewers to make a long, long run in the playoffs. And I hope that comes to fruition. There's no other way to go around it. So I know you're short on time, Vince, but I know in honor of Scott, you like to take your time, but let's try to do the quick rapid nine here, playoff
Yeah.
edition,
Yep.
maybe a minute
Yep.
per or less. So here we go. First inning. Who will start game 3 of the NLDS? This is not who should start, but who will start, in your opinion? Who will start
Chad
game
Patrick.
3?
Yeah. Chad Patrick.
Patrick. Okay. Who should in the second inning? My answer to that is Quintana. Okay. Second inning. Who should start game 3? Who should start game 3 of the NLDS?
Who should? Chad Patrick. Yeah, I'm
Chad
comfortable with
Patrick.
that.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the Miz should start game 3. Okay, third inning. Name one surprise player that is going to be named to the NLDS roster, like a surprise brewer that'll make the
Ooh,
26-man roster?
for the NLDS. That's a good question. We didn't discuss this in our pre-production meeting at all.
No.
Okay, so I've gotten some word from our anonymous source, Tom Carter, and you know Tom pretty well. He
Oh,
works for the Brewers,
TC.
and
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't say his
yeah,
name.
yeah, yeah.
He's actually
Okay, well,
threatening
a
me at
little
this
late.
point that he will never be on our podcast if we say his name again, but he'll give us a couple ball games,
A
I'm sure.
little late for that, but okay. I'm gonna say Robert Gasser as a surprise pick to be on the roster. I don't
Nice.
really know how that's going to fit in, but I'm going to go with Robert Gasser.
And I do apologize for Robert Gasser, who I'm a huge fan of and did make two starts last week of the season and return from injury. I think I forgot to mention he also came back from injury and is obviously a candidate to make it. And that's a great pick. I'm going to go with Brandon Lockridge, just because I think
Oh
that
yeah,
I don't know why, but
yeah,
I feel like we want to speed off the bench or something. All right, fourth
yeah.
inning.
His
Name
speed
one.
is pretty awesome too.
Yep. So name one surprise player to be left off the NLDS roster.
You're not going to like it. I think they're going to leave Miz off completely.
Wow. Okay. I'm gonna go with Hoskins, which I mentioned on the last podcast. But I think it's a possibility, but
Yeah,
then maybe that's not a
I
surprise
think
one.
I think you're right about Hopkins too. I think both are going to be left off actually.
Okay. Yeah. Fifth inning. Rank your top three AL teams this postseason. I guess it's kind of a moot point after we already went over that. But who do you
Yeah,
think that the three best teams are in the AL?
well, three I picked. I mean, we went over it. Who wrote these questions? Was
Well,
this
well, no. I mean,
Scotty Zephyr again?
technically, you had the final four. So who was your top three? Obviously, the Guardians are in there.
Cleveland, Cleveland, Yankees, Toronto. I think I rate those three ahead of Seattle personally, but that's just me.
Yeah. So my top three in order were Mariners number one, Yankees number two, and Blue Jays number three. Rank your top three NL teams this postseason.
Milwaukee, in no particular order, Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and not I hate to say it, but I guess the Cubs.
Even though I picked them to lose, I'm picking the Dodgers third, just I do think they're the third best team, but they could still get knocked off. I'm going Brewers one, Phillies two, Dodgers three as the three best teams still in the tournament. All right, seventh inning. Name your unsung Brewers postseason pitcher. Someone that'll emerge as a unsung pitcher this postseason for the
Yeah,
Brewers.
man, I'm tripling down. I'm going Chad Patrick. I really think that he's going to step up big time. I really like that he's pretty unflappable. Like I go back to his debut in April and how this guy who wasn't even supposed to make the team stepped up and pitched well. And before he got sent down through no fault of his own, was a Rookie of the Year candidate. And I just really like his stuff. And I think that he pitches with a chip on his shoulder because of other organizations that gave up on him way too early. And I'm gonna go Chad Patrick all the way. Big fan.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. And again, he's been an unsung hero for us this season for sure. I'm gonna go with Nick Mears.
Nice.
Eighth inning. Name your unsung Brewers postseason hitter. This who will emerge and make. And again, sometimes this is just a guy that could get a big hit in a big game, clutch situation.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Jackson Churio because he has, until proven otherwise, proven to be at least a big game player. I know that, we were talking in one of our pre-production meetings being a little concerned about his numbers in September. I'm not really concerned about Jackson Churio. I think that he's just got all the talent in the world, and I think that he's had a, good season overall. He had an injury that he dealt with, but he still is the youngest guy to ever put up two 2020 seasons in a row, and I have all the faith in him, and I think that his postseason last year gives me even more faith that he is going to have another big postseason this year. He doesn't get scared of the bright lights, and I love that about him.
Yeah, no, that's a great pick. And one thing, looking at Jackson Churro's numbers are very similar this year to last. He did miss like nearly a month this season, so his numbers would be a little bit better, I feel, without that missed time. And I feel like he has made progression and some growth, and he's got that superstar potential and ceiling that you want his bat. And again, he slumped a little bit down here down the stretch, but it was good for me to see him get some big hits this last weekend. I think hopefully he's out of his slump, and now I'm expecting big hits from him this postseason. Obviously, we need that. But just as an
His counting
unsung guy,
numbers would be right there. It would be even better this year, Craig, because he hit 270, which is 5 points under his batting average from last year. His OBP was a little bit down, 327 to 308, but his counting stats, his home runs were the same. His RBIs were one off of each other. So you're right. If he would have played for the month that he missed, which by the way was when the Brewers offense was at its hottest, so he would have been surrounded by guys who were swinging the bat well. I think you would have seen those numbers jump up significantly across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go on record saying very early here that next season is going to be a 33rd season for him, and maybe the first of many.
Love it.
So,
Love it.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Obviously, I think we need him. I'm going to go with Blake Perkins to get a key hit in the postseason. Don't know when it's going to be, but he's going to get a big key hit. That's my spot. All right, so our ninth inning question is actually a threefold question, and so we'll see. This is an over-under question. Over-under on how many games yours truly, Craig, will attend this postseason.
Well, that's not fair.
And the number for the over-under is 3. The over-under, how many games I will attend is 3.
It's going to be
over or the under?
Easily over, no question about it, because first of all, you can't stay away, even if it's like the DS. Like I know you well enough to know that you will end up figuring out a way to get in, whether you're solo or with kids or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to go over on that. If the Brewers are in the NLCS or the World Series, I can't see you missing. I don't think you'll go to every NLCS game, but I would say if it's the World Series, you're not going to miss a game. And I would say if it's the NLCS, you're going to go to at least 2 games at home. And I would say in the NLDS, you'll go to at least 1 to 2. So yeah, over.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the over for myself too, but of course that portends the fact that we would be advancing a little bit deeper than we normally have. So let's hope that that's true. So, okay.
Yeah.
So again, that's why it's an interesting question, in my opinion, because there's a little bit of mix of how far will the Brewers go and how far will Craig's significant other allow him to open up his pocketbook and all this stuff. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, same question for you.
Just take control.
Yeah.
You're in charge.
Okay. Second tier of that question is over under on how many games Vince Travato will attend this postseason. How many Brewer playoff games in particular?
Yeah, nothing to see here in Houston this year. Yep.
The over under is 2.
I'm going to come up for the NLCS games 6 and 7 if being played in Milwaukee, and I will stay in town then for the World Series. In which case, I would go to every. I'll go to every World Series game in Milwaukee.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I guess I'm glad I was going to pick the over, and I'm glad I went with that since I know your plans now. That's even better. So, all right. So this is.
Yep. I just thought that's what I was talking to my dad about. We were just kind of mapping this out and, who's going to go to which games. And Lino's going to come up with me for the World Series, probably not the NLCS. But if it's the World Series starts, right after the NLCS, obviously, and we have home field advantage. So that means that games 1 and 2 would be in Milwaukee. So I figured come up, in time for game 6. I think it's a Monday night. Do that and then just stick around, for the World Series as long as I need to. And I'll stick around through the parade. So that would be awesome. my schedule.
That's great plans. I'm glad I picked the over. I will say that a friend of mine asked me what is the limit on how much I'd spend for a World Series ticket. And my response was unlimited, indefinite.
Yeah, don't broadcast this too loud because you don't want the Brewers to hear that and just jack up prices again. But yeah, I tend to agree personally. And to me, this is a once in a very, hopefully not lifetime, but a once in a while situation, especially the first one in my cognizant adult life. And it's a big deal. And we're such avid fans that we know what's going on with the team. It's not like we're fair weather fans. We're the opposite of that. We've been hosting a Brewers podcast together for 21 years or, a show together for 21 years. So no, this is an opportunity to do something pretty special. And if the Brewers make the World Series, I would be kicking myself to not be there. It would be very difficult for me to not be there, especially this first one. So yeah, I'd be at every game that I could possibly get to. And as far as money goes, I probably wouldn't think about it a ton, honestly, because it's something that you just do when the opportunity arises. And if we were to go to back-to-back World Series, I'd probably next year limit it to 1 game or something or 2 games or whatever. But honestly, I even then, like, whatever, I'm just gonna enjoy it and have fun. And I think that there's limited times in life where you can just kind of do that, and this is one of them. So I'm Yeah, I'm all in. I will say the World Series in DC, I lived there in 2019, and I think I got a ticket for like 150 or $200 or something like that, and that was from a season ticket holder that I knew that couldn't go to one of the games. Um, so
Don't get the Brewer
in
fans
any
hopes
event,
up that I'll be in that range.
no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to convey like my experience. I did go to Wrigley Field for the 2016 World Series.
Yeah.
To cheer against the Cubs, and but I got a ticket from somebody who worked for baseball, so it was a little bit different. So I just
Did the
paid
Guardians
for
win
that.
that
So
game? Or did the Indians win that game?
the no, it was a game that the Cubs ended up to come back to get them back to good. They were going to
Oh,
be eliminated that
that was a game that cost them. Oh,
unfortunately. And I
oh.
wore an Indians jersey. I wore an Indians jersey to Wrigley. I got pictures to prove it. So yeah, quite a scene. But and then when the Astros were in though, a couple years ago when we lived down here, that was 2022, and the tickets were nuts. It was like a couple grand for a ticket. I mean, it was wild. So Houston's way more corporate than Milwaukee for sure. It's a lot more
Yeah.
business centric. The average family isn't going to games. It's like companies that then take people. I would say. It's a way different ticket structure. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be Houston level prices. So I'll say Milwaukee will be reasonable-ish, but still expensive for Milwaukee.
Get back to the third last part of this is like bio and nine, 2 outs type of thing. Last question, our
Yeah.
rapid nine. The over under for set for our colleague Scott Bartell on how many playoff games he will attend is at 0.5 games. So that means if you pick the over, it means he's attended a game. If you pick the under, it means he will
No.
not attend any games in the postseason.
No, he's not going to go to any games. Scott doesn't like the Brewers anymore.
That's probably the safe pick. I'm just going to try. This is my theme going into this podcast is optimism. So I will pick the over that he will attend one postseason game, and it'll probably be in the World Series. That's my
Why?
prediction.
With who? He doesn't like the Brewers, though. He said.
Yeah, he'd get really mad about that Hager trade. That's for sure. So yeah, your
Yep.
guess is if I was a betting man, I'd probably have to pick the under for sure. But anyway,
If you, as much as I love him, if you give Scott the option of sitting on his couch and drinking, or going out and doing something, he's going to choose sitting on the couch. Like it's that simple.
absolutely. So, but all you other Brewer fans, get on out there and support this team throughout the playoffs. It looks like already from the ticket sales that you guys are doing that.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's going to be magical postseason. So make yourself part of it in some way. And we're really fired up here. And thanks again for listening. We'll do our best to give you come at you with more podcasts between each of the playoff rounds. Hopefully, knock on wood. And yeah.
Yep.
So again, thanks again. Also, I just want to shout out Stay Classy. This goes out to the St. Louis Cardinals. Apparently, I did not see this, but I read online that Michael Bush of the Cubs had a chance to get a cycle with a single this weekend, the last weekend of the season, where their games were pretty much meaningless for both teams, and the Cardinals intentionally walked him.
Love it.
Stay classy, St. Louis.
I hate the Cubs. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
totally
fine with it too, but it also it's I say stay classy St. Louis because that's the type of move that their fans, if someone else did it, they would thumb their nose down at them. So
Yeah,
they're
well, that's
allowed
fine
to
too. But
do it.
I'm fine with Michael Bush not getting a cycle and having the Cubs be angry about something. I really hate the Cubs a lot right now, so that's totally
No,
fine.
I agree.
I will also say thanks to Vikram, who has been consistent about his picking of the Brewers to win a world championship. So we appreciate his insights and advice, which he lets his thoughts be known after each game, of course. So very much appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Vikram, for being probably our number one Brook Review fan. I mean, we might even have to
He is.
designate
Yep.
that. And also, I know my nephew Alex is also probably in the top 5 of our top listeners. A lot of them, I don't know. I assume there's lots of our listeners that have been with us for decades, but we appreciate you guys as well, even though if we may not know who you are. So thank you again, and you guys stay classy as well. And this is going to be
Many of them do follow us on Twitter or X at Brew Review One. So ask that you interact with us mostly on there, which is great. We do get a lot of feedback and people interacting with our posts. So we appreciate all the work that Scotty's interns do to get that continually updated and to make sure that we're interacting with fans on a regular basis. And we will get to your emails, or Scotty will at some point. Brew Review Podcast with an S at gmail.com is our email address.
Awesome. All right. Stay classy, Wisconsin, and go Brewers.
All right. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, Chad. Go Brewers.